awesome group. I haven't even done anything yet. No, thank you so much for your enthusiasm. This is awesome. I mean, Sophie has announced it plenty of times, and there's been a little bit of a rush going on all over the place, and we are launching DxE Switzerland this year. This weekend as well. So thank you so much for joining. So, my presentation, by the way, my name is Maria Radic. I'm sure you've seen me on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, you'll see my name coming by. So I wanted to tell you a thing or two about DxE globally, worldwide, what DxE stands for and what we do, and the actions that are a core part of DxE, and of course the 40-year plan, which is there for animal liberation, and also to tell you how we are going to do this in Switzerland and how we're going to approach it for Switzerland and what the general idea in DxE Switzerland is. So make yourself comfortable. I know you already are. There is room for questions at the end, so just feel free to ask anything later on. And as I said, our first action is tomorrow. So exciting, so exciting. So, what is direct action? Shoot.
Disrupt the system.
I think you've been reading up on the materials. Yeah, I have well, disruption and direct action can be anything really. I have a very short answer to that, but before that, I want to start with a story from Wayne Husung, the founder of DxE, who always tells a story about one of his professors who 40 years ago came to teach at a position in Chicago, and at one point he was asked by one of his students, like, they were talking about starting a gay movement and a gay organization. And this was 40 years ago, and what his answer was like, okay, that sounds like a criminal organization, so what are you really trying to do? Right now, skip forward to 40 years later, we have, of course, LGBT community, and we have gay rights being constitutionalized and marriage equality in so many countries already. So we have gone in 40 years from basically a criminal conspiracy, which was actually just something that you could get arrested for, or at least put away by your parents because you were like, oh my God, weird. But now to have it basically constitutionalized as a right, as a human right, which we are not allowed to basically to, how do you say it, to violate. Thank you for the word. Exactly. So how did this happen? How did we go in these 40 years from a crime to constitutionalized rights? So it was, of course, 40 years of messy, turbulent disruption and action like this, and a lot of direct action, which was which basically meant if nobody is talking about it, we cannot reach anything. We did the gay and lesbian community did not want to hide anymore, but really wanted to accomplish what we have finally today, that even in America, which is very slow to move, we have gay marriage, which has been legalized. So what happened here? The gay rights movement started basically with taking all sorts of actions. There was no format. It could be just writing the letter to the editor of a magazine, or even have like, for example, a gay Tupperware party, which basically meant it could be anything. And also talking, of course, to your family and relatives and people on the streets, and talking about gay rights. So this is what actually is. Direct action can be anything. There is no format. It can be, we can do anything we want as long as we challenge injustice. So this is the core of, in its core, it's challenging and not accommodating injustice. It's not basically lying down and saying, okay, it's okay to discriminate us. It's okay if you violate our rights. It's okay, we're going to work inside of a system. No, it's basically saying, this has been enough. We are going to disrupt whatever systemic violation of or systemic injustice there is, we're going to disrupt this, and we're not going to stop unless people talk about it. And the more people talk about it, the more things will change. Even though if you don't change straight away, the point is really to get people talking and thinking about, oh, but if somebody's complaining, if somebody is actually hurt by something, there must be more to it. And not just like if it hurts me personally, then there's something wrong with the system. So, so basically, the Oxford Dictionary defines, I'm just going to read this because I did not learn this from my head. Oxford English Dictionary defines direct action as the use of strikes, demonstration, and other public forms of protest, rather than negotiating to achieve one's demands. The Martin Luther King Center defines direct action as using non-violent tactics to bring an oppressive party into a dialogue. So there is no negotiation, it's simply, okay, there is a moral stance which we are going to take, and a moral obligation to basically challenge this injustice. Which brings me to something else which is going to kind of be a personal thing. If you're a little bit like me, watching movies about slavery or about anything else that happened in the past, like racism, discrimination, sexism, I would always sit down, even as a little child, and I would just yell at the TV, like, why was not anybody doing anything about it? It's so obvious. How can you be like this, you stupid people? I would sit in front of a TV like this. And for me, it would be so obvious that this was injustice and something had to change. And in the movie, it would always be some, like, few people who would battle against everybody, and everybody else was completely blind. Well, for me, it was obvious, but that's the thing. The injustice is so systemic, it's so covered up by our systems, by our culture, by our rules, that we are actually not even seeing the oppression, because it's so natural. It has the disguise of normalcy. So what we do with DxE, or what a direct action is basically changing the ideas rather than changing the behavior. We are not focused on making vegans. We are focused on actually mobilizing activists. I will tell more about that later. But it's really about changing the ideas, but planting seeds, okay, but there's an oppression which I'm blind to. I'm not sure what this oppression is about, but apparently somebody else is there doing something about it, so if people get talking, things will start changing. So one of the people who actually got things changing is Emmeline Pankhurst. She's one of the women who gave me and other women voting rights, or actually fought to give us voting rights, to change the systems that that women are born and brought into. So her and her family, her daughters, and organization of women, they worked for 10 years within the system, within the rules, and finally after 10 years they were basically able to get somebody in the parliament, one man, to actually hear them out. And of course they were super excited, and finally somebody, after 10 years of work, somebody was going to listen to them and listen about women's rights to vote. And what happened, maybe you can expect it, as soon as this was brought up, they just got laughed out of the building. Nobody thought this was a sane idea. It was just ridiculous. How can they have women voting and stuff like that? So this is where it ended for, if you ask the men who were at the parliament at that time, this is where it actually could have ended for them. But Emmeline and her daughters thought, okay, so working within the system is not getting us anywhere. We have to put our money where our mouths are, and that's exactly what they did. What they did is they designed a plan to disrupt one of the biggest occasions in the parliament, largest political parties in Britain. And what they designed was basically, they would sneak in there and have posters under there, or banners under their skirts, which they were going to put up at a certain time. And Emmeline's daughter was going to spit on a police officer so she would get arrested, because at that time this was an offense punishable by jail time. And what happened, that's exactly what they did. Her daughter got arrested, And of course, people were very happy to say, oh my God, these crazy women, what the hell are they doing? But you know what happened? What else happened? People started talking about it. People started talking about women's rights to vote, and people started talking about, okay, but maybe there's something else here. And of course, because people started to talk, this cascaded into many more people talking, many more people feeling empowered to take direct action, and it caused a cascade all over Europe as well, and other countries who joined in. Just a little bit of water. And in the end, of course, we got our rights to vote, obviously. Thank God. So basically, because these activists started with a non-violent action, which would never get them actually to abandon their moral values and abandon the core of what it is, non-violent action which has a moral stance of pointing out an injustice. They did this with this reason and this moral high ground, and because they did this, and people started talking in 10 years, there were, women got rights to vote, because what it did, it basically shone a light on an inconsistency that was so inherent to the system. Basically, people trusted women to raise their children, but they did not trust them with other responsibilities. If you ask me, raising a child is one of the biggest things that you can have in a society, and now they're not allowed to vote, because you're raising new humans to be good members of society, and if you're not even allowed to have a say in that society, what the hell? So it's kind of what's happening. So yes, so DxE globally, what we do globally, and of course what we want to do locally here, is also point out the inconsistencies in our societies, which of course we know with systemic things that are oppressing animals, which we have like in our language, or just the fact that people find it normal milk and normal lunch, and if you say I'm a vegan, yeah, you're not normal. This cloud of normalcy disguises so much oppression, which is invisible for a lot of people, not to us anymore, but it used to be invisible for us as well. So if you have seen, if you have not lived under a rock, I assume it's not a nice place, you have seen a lot of things on Facebook with people in California liberating turkeys for Thanksgiving, and of course DxE and other countries went into to liberate animals everywhere, and there have been a lot of disruptions, and most recently on, I think, January 1st or 2nd, there was also a disruption of the Bloomingdale's in San Francisco, because there had been a there was a ban of sales of fur, which just started to work on January 1st, and they were there pointing it out to the people in the store that they were still selling fur, and they were behaving in an illegal manner. They were there holding them accountable for things which are unjust. So we watched them with glee, and now we're here to do the same, actually. So what DxE has, it's built on three things. Like every historical movement which has been very powerful and very strong, and it is forged in having a great social network and a great community. So I'm very happy that we're here, all activists from different movements, from AV of course, from SAVE, and we get to build this extremely powerful community together. And like Sophie mentioned earlier today, it's a family. It's a family feeling, and it's really important that we actually have a strong base in community. And apart from that, there is, of course, mass protest and open rescue. I'm going to talk about mass protest, which is one of the things that we are going to engage in, of course. First, mass protest is there to basically empower us as activists. It is there to mobilize activists and make you feel like you can make a change. It is there to get the people talking. It's very twofold. It gets this community or society talking about the injustices, because we are there disrupting their negative peace, disrupting their events which they find normal to eat meat, or like tomorrow we're going to disrupt something else. It's really about empowering you to stand stronger as an activist. Also about, if people see you, you're doing this. You're doing this not alone. We are doing this with 200 people or 60 people, how many we are. There is a social disruption which is happening. And we are there to say, we are not alone. I'm not the only crazy person out there. There's something really wrong. And as soon as we are there and we feel empowered to talk about animal rights, and we challenge these injustices which have been covered up, we really have something, we have a force in a society that can actually change things. Open rescue, it's liberation in action. This is about, of course, not about us. It's about telling stories of animals who have spent all of their lives in the most miserable places on Earth. It's about challenging the view of how we see things. And it's really about making this conversation and discussion possible. That this is not normal, even though there is a cloud of normalcy, whatever we find and accept it, okay, that it's not normal, that there is actually a new reality where animal liberation is a reality, it's a fact. By doing open rescue, by going there in broad daylight, and by actually revealing the identities, the activists are really pointing out, look, we are not shrouded in a cloud of secrecy or anything. We are here doing our basically civil disobedience acts, and we are here challenging laws and rules and oppression in the society, which is not unjust. It can be absolutely legal, but we know legality is not the same as justice. So, skipping to a very inspirational man, as you know, also not a law-abiding citizen, which we of course know, but the thing is, even though it might sound like a long way to go, like he said, the arc bends toward justice, even though we cannot see it right now, and even if it does take 40 years, which I'm going to go over next. It is a path, and it's not a sprint. It's really much a marathon, and we are there is a 40-year strategic plan for animal liberation, and I would advise you all to read it. I will post it later on in the group, and on the page. It's definitely something that you should read, and it focuses step by step in 5 years, 5-year chunks, how we can get animal liberation, at least in some parts of the world, because that's another point. There is concentration. So, which means after talking to the LGBT community, DxE members actually concluded that it was not necessary to have animal liberation everywhere at the same time, but it's very important to have seed cities, or to concentrate activists and to concentrate the society of activists in certain places. And then we can actually accomplish a lot more, because people will flock in there to those cities, and changes will start to brew. And like for LGBT community, it was definitely New York City and San Francisco Bay where things started to change, and it kind of just trickled through to other parts of the country. And so this is exactly what DxE's plan is to liberate Berkeley. Berkeley is a tiny city actually in California, and there's a lot of vegan activists in there because definitely what the idea is to have to ban sales of meat in Berkeley in 10 years, so that there is actually that it will be illegal to sell meat and of course consume it. And this is one of the cities where change is possible, because what happens is basically, because it's a small city, it's very easy to flood this city with vegan activists, and a lot of people are willing to move there, and there are the Animal Liberation Convention, is there as well next spring, and the idea is really to start with the city and trickle through the world and have other seed cities there as well. So having said that, the idea is really to make Zurich into a hub. Like already mentioned, it's of course with every other movement, and to make this, yes, woo! What's happening? No, the idea is really to combine our efforts and to have Zurich be this seed city also for DxE, but also for every other animal activist movement, so we can have a really strong base, a really strong community, and then we can start changing things ASAP. So what can we actually do? Of course, read the 40-year plan, and we have weekends like this coming up even more, because we are, again, like I said, we had a vigil yesterday, we're going to have a cube of truth today, we have a disruption tomorrow. So we will definitely forge these bonds between activists, and we will forge activism itself, so we can have we can actually disrupt our societies and our cities with every kind of action. So this is the next thing that we are going to do, is this weekend in the Cube of Truth, of course. And if you want to go to Animal Liberation Convention, it's at the end of May, and I would really advise you to go there, because there will be veteran DxE people teaching us how to be very amazing activists. So for now, you know, one closing is, we always hear about people who challenge the status quo and who change the world and who inspire so many others doing that. This is our chance. We are those people. And DxE is just a platform for you to be this person that you admire, and to go on and do every kind of direct action that you can to basically change the world for the better. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell about the action soon, but thank you so much. There's room for questions first.